Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! History with Giorlando. In today's video, I'm going to be running the Dark Arm Return variant that I profiled the other day against Sean, who I presume is also going to be running a Dark Arm Returned variant. I have made one change between the deck profile and this list. I've cut the Card Trooper. If you watch the entirety of that previous profile, I mentioned how I'd consider cutting the Reaper and the Torrential, maybe adding cards like Upstart Goblin, then even finding another card to cut to bump it up to 3 Upstart Goblins. I've elected to keep the Torrential and the Reaper so that my deck is fairly similar to the deck that Jerry Wang used to win the Shonen Jump in Columbus. The side deck I have here is a lot different than his. I have a lot of hate for some of the matchups that I commented on the other day. Spell cancelers for some of those combo decks, things like DDT, some Kinetic Soldiers, or what used to be called Kinetic Soldiers for the Warrior matchup, specifically Six Samurais. Some DD Crows for the D Fusion decks, the D Fusion FTKs I talked about, same thing with Nico Main King. A True Nade in MST and 2 Royal Decrees for some of the rogue matchups, same with the Mirror Force, and then 1 random Curse Seal, because I think that's also pretty good against some of the combo decks. So we'll see what Sean is running. I know he's running a variant of Dark Arm Return. I don't know how close to the deck that I am running he is, but we will certainly find out in just a few moments. All right, let's see here. I'll go with Rock. All right, so we get to go first. That's obviously a huge advantage. Basically, at any point in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, I know there's some modern formats after the rule change between drawing 5 and 6 where you want to go second. But certainly in a format where you draw 6, you absolutely want to go first. So this is a really good hand. I could do something really basic, like play the Dark Grepher, ditch the Dasher, get Malicious into the grave, banish the Malicious, and set Mind Crush and Crush card. I will say if I were to do that, I don't have a great follow-up, that I'm left with Grepher and Scapegoat in and of itself, and I guess Allure of Darkness, which isn't the best combination of cards, but since I have the Mind Crush, I think I'm inclined to do that. It also puts Dasher in the grave. It should be worth noting that playing Allure of Darkness itself isn't the absolute worst idea. If I hit any Dark Monster, I still basically have that same play, but I could also draw some more advantageous Dark Monsters to go along with the Crush Card Virus, or maybe even something else. I think I'm going to play it, I'm going to call it safely and do it like this. I guess we'll see what the 2 cards I would have drawn were. Yeah, so Return and Stratos, I actually wouldn't have been able to do this play if I activated Allure, because I would have had to banish the Dasher or the Grepher, presumably the Dasher in that situation. Well, actually I could have. If I banished the Dasher and normal summon Stratos, I could have searched Malicious and then ditched the Malicious to special the Grepher. Not use Grepher's effect from that point, but then I'd get the Dark Monster in the grave. So I guess either way it would have worked out. I'm not sure which would have been better. These are 2 really good cards, so I guess it's a little bit debatable. But we'll send the Malicious to the grave, give him an opportunity to use Crow. Doesn't seem like he's going to. If he's running the deck that I'm running, we are not main decking DD Crow. I'm not honestly even probably going to side deck DD Crow. So now we will set, I will set all 3 of them. There is a universe where he could make an aggressive push, and having the Scapegoat set can stop him even with the Crush card and Mind Crush. Let's also think about if he has a card like Trap Dust Shoot. If he has Trap Dust Shoot and I draw to 3, I'm still playing around Trap Dust Shoot. So there's no fear about him having Trap Dust Shoot with what I'm currently doing right now. If he were to activate Heavy Storm, I could chain Scapegoat. I'm going to activate Crush in his draw phase. That way I know what to Mind Crush. That way if he does activate Heavy Storm, I don't have to blind Mind Crush. So I think setting the Scapegoats is fair. It also can at least present the possibility that it's returned from the different dimension, which is obviously a really threatening card. So we'll see what we get here. All right, wow, that hand is really quite strong for what I've just done. So he has Preem, Reborn, Goat, Draw, and Rota. Wow, that hand is incredibly powerful. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to win from this point. I think what I have to do is actually Mind Crush the Rota. That way he's left with Valley, Draw, Goat, Reborn, and Burial, and none of those cards from here do anything. Yeah, I think I have to activate this on the Rota. If I were to allow him to go into Stratos, he could actually just Reborn the Stratos or Premature the Stratos. From the way things are currently constituted, he can Reborn one of these 2, but they don't really do much. So as things are currently constituted and I'm in okay shape, I mean, he could make a Reborn Cyber Valley draw 2 play, but he is technically still under Crush, although Crush card obviously didn't hit anything. So he's setting the scapegoats. So I will draw Zerato. So I obviously have the Dasher in the graveyard, but I think it's much better just to use the Allure of Darkness. I don't really want to summon the Zerato. I can't use its effect. If I could use its effect, it's a little bit of a different story. All right, that's pretty solid. That is obviously pretty good. I have to be wary, though, of his Monster Reborn. So here I have the options of ditching the Sangan or the Zerato. I think ditching the Zerato is probably better. If I were to use the Greffer effect and ditch the Sangan, there's no monster that I could put into the graveyard. That at this point would bring me to 3 darks because I've already used the Malicious. Malicious is really the only dark monster that you can use that would manage your pile, your graveyard more specifically. So let's see here. He has Premature Reborn, Goat, and D-Draw with Valley on board. He's going to get 2 fresh draws because I am, no matter what, at this point, going to attack into the Valley. I think keeping the Sangan is probably the way to go. There's actually a universe where I could ditch the Dark Arm Dragon, set the Sangan, and then tribute summon Zerato next turn. I don't think that really gets me anywhere. So I think what I'm going to do is banish the Zerato. It's just one of those cards you want banished. I am, at this point, just going to attack and see what he draws. This will give me knowledge on what to do from this point. Yep. Hopefully he just reveals Fusion. Oh, boy. Man, he is drawing all around the Crush card right now. Luckily, I have some good monsters myself for that. So I think from this point, I'm just going to pass. If he were to try and use Defusion, like Scapegoat, End Phase, Defusion, the Valley to draw 2, I get back 2 pretty good monsters. And the Greffer on board represents the 3rd dark for Dark Arm, so I don't actually want to set a 2nd dark on the board. Not that I think his current collection of cards will be able to break that, but I also have the Scapegoat set, so I'm just going to end, even if he doesn't Fusion. So he does choose to keep the Scapegoat set. He draws the Cyber Valley this turn, which is actually pretty interesting. He probably wishes he activated it. Yep. Draw. Disc Commander. So we're in the same situation where I think I'm just going to attack and see what he draws. I will say that I can special summon this Disc Commander, but again, I don't think it really accomplishes anything. It just puts another monster on the board. It doesn't really do a whole lot here. So I'm just going to attack into his Cyber Valley. He now has 2 Cyber Valleys, but there's really no way around that. Allure of Darkness. Okay, so he's got Premature Burial, Monster Reborn. So Premature Burial, Monster Reborn, Defusion, Allure of Darkness, and Destiny Draw with Scapegoat set. Yep, I think I'm just going to pass. I don't really have a good avenue of doing anything from this point, so I'll end. And another D-Draw. All right, so my Crush card officially hit 0 cards, which is really impressive against this matchup, but it is what it is. From his perspective, he has the option of using the Defusion. I don't think it's that great because I get 2 pretty good monsters. Yeah, he's just going to pass here. Plasma. It's not a very good one either. I can't summon that off Dash or anything. I guess it's not the worst. With my Scapegoat set, it actually isn't the worst thing in the world. If I can survive a turn, which I think I'm going to do. I'm not making that statement as if I'm close to losing with his current collection of cards. There actually is a universe where that can be really good. So I think here I'm just going to attack for 17. None of his cards currently do anything. He has a ton of live draws, incredibly live draws, but I think I'm okay just attacking right now and then passing. I really want him to do something that I can Plasma. We'll see if he chooses to Scapegoat's End Phase. I don't think he's going to Scapegoat End Phase with these cards, but it's not completely off the table. The thing with using it End Phase is now a Defusion would only bring back 1 Cyber Valley, and obviously that's not as valuable as bringing back multiple Cyber Valleys. This is his first post-Crush draw, so he has 1 unknown currently. Yep. His Preem, Reborn, Goat set, 2 Fusion. He asked that almost as if maybe he drew a big monster, so we will see. If he drew Dark Arm, it doesn't do anything. If he drew Plasma, he would Destiny draw it. If he drew Zerato, it doesn't do anything. Grepher doesn't really do anything here. He would probably hold Grepher until he drew another Dark, in which case it would absolutely do something. So he probably didn't draw anything too good. Now he's setting another card to the back row. Huh. So if I activated Scapegoat's end phase, I could have summoned the Plasma, but it wouldn't suck anything up. And I know this here is Scapegoat's. I have some interesting options. I can use the dash right now to summon this Jinzo. That is on the table. But I can't get to 3 Darks that way. What I could do is I could tribute the Grepher for the Jinzo, and then summon Dark Arm and start to clear his board. The problem with that play is it would put the... Oh, actually, it wouldn't put the Dark... It would put nothing in the graveyard. Yeah, that actually probably is the best play. I was worried that I'd put Grepher in the graveyard for his monster board, but that would actually not be the case. Yeah, so I think actually the play here is to tribute this off for Jinzo. And now summon Dark Arm Dragon. And now, let's see here. We absolutely want to destroy this face down. I'm assuming it's going to be Destiny Draw. Let's see. If I were to activate the Dark Arm Dragon on this, he would chain the Scapegoat. I actually think it's worthwhile to declare the attacks first. I think that's probably the best avenue here. It would make it, if I were to declare the attacks, that he basically has to Scapegoat. Right now I'm thinking about how I can play around Dimension Fusion. Because if I just banish and target this, he's going to chain it, have 4 goats. I could banish the other 2, kill 2 goats, and then attack over 2 goats, and it doesn't actually do any damage. So I'm not doing any damage either way. So I'm going to do it like this. The attack with the Dark Arm Dragon first is the way of making it so that he activates Scapegoat, because it has more attack than the Jinzo. If he wants to do some math and consider holding it back, wow, okay. So see, now when I attack with Jinzo and he uses the Scapegoat to block it so that his Dimension Fusion goes off, he ended up taking 400 more damage, right? Because the Dark Arm attack, just the Dark Arm attack itself, isn't enough. I actually might make him keep these Scapegoats. I need to think about this for a second. I think it's probably correct to... Well, it's actually debatable what to do here. No, I'm gonna kill the goat. Yeah, I'm gonna kill the goat. Right? I think it's probably fine to kill the goat. The reason why you wouldn't kill the goat is the way his hand is currently constituted, Preem, Reborn, none of these cards really do a lot. The problem is if I keep him with 4 goats, it doesn't in and of itself do a whole lot either for me, because on the following turn, I'm staring at these and my Zerato's banished and I don't have a good way of getting it. If I keep him with the 4 goats, it slows down his defusion play. That's really the big concern right now, is his defusion play. So let's think about this. I'm assuming this is D-drop. One of the options is actually just to destroy all of the tokens. That way, if he does defusion, he only gets back the 2 valleys, which is marginally effective. That's assuming I do kill the Scapegoat, and my read on this is in fact true. And honestly, if this is return, it also doesn't really do anything. So what I think I'm going to do now is just kill all of his goat tokens. That way it slows down his defusion. And I'm actually going to leave his back row. I'm just going to assume it's another Destiny draw. I'm going to clear my graveyard. That way he has nothing to Monster Reborn. Yep. Perfect. It also loads up my graveyard for defusion. So that is something to consider. I've already used my normal summon on Jinzo, so I'm going to pass. I had an option of dark arming either my own Dark Arm Dragon or his back, or my own Jinzo to make my Scapegoat live. There is some discussion for doing that, but I think I'm okay leaving the Dark Arm on the field. Because if I didn't, he would be left with a Scapegoat. So I think it's fine like this. And I kind of want the Jinzo to protect against what I presume is going to be either one of the dead cards that was already in his hand. I think specifically Destiny Draw because he already had 2. Or it could be something that he drew like Return. So here's the big turn. If he starts off with Defusion, I'm in pretty decent shape. Another reason not to make it so that I'm pot committed to the scapegoat is if he defusions, I can't scapegoat anymore anyway because I'll have already special summoned. Just rip the sick card. Yeah, Gold Sark. Yep, that'll probably be the game, actually. That is a good one with defusion. Yep. I just have to hope I survive. We will see if I can pull that off. Yep. I will bring back the Dasher to reset its effect. I will bring back a Giorlando in attack because he has a lot of attack. And I will bring back, let's see. I think I'm going to bring back a... One of the reasons I'm reluctant to bring back Dark Grepher is if he were to get access to brain control, that would be a really potent card. I guess it doesn't matter because if he wants, he can put the Rhoda on top of his deck. So if he really wanted to get access to that, he could. So he has a Lure. Let's see what he has. He has a Lure. Yeah, he's going to bring that back. Yeah. Yeah, it probably doesn't matter what I bring back. I'm going to put back the Grepher in defense. If he wants to load his graveyard, he basically just can do that regardless. Yep. So now he's going to Rhoda for Stratos. Use one of his D draws. I'm going to presume he gets Disc Commander. With Monster Born and Premature, that makes the most sense. Yep. Disc Commander. Yep. So his Goats is gone. So he has a Lure, D-Draw, Reborn, Premature. Yep. It will be interesting to see how he uses all his Cyber Valleys this turn. What's that? Premature? Yep. Yep. It's good. Down to 700. Yep, there's the Allure. Now he's down only 2 cards I know. There are almost an infinite number of things that beat me from here. The reason why I think I'm just going to lose is because he has the double Valley. The amount of things that he can do now with Valley is quite significant. He can put any of these back on top of his deck. Now, granted, none of these actually do a whole lot right now. The only card in his graveyard right now that actually does a lot is Rhoda, because it can give him access to Grepher, which can then presumably give him access to enough Darks for Darkarm Dragon. So that's how I think I'm going to lose this game this turn. But we shall see. So he's going to do a Darkarm Dragon as pop the back row. He'll pop the Giorlando and the Darkarm Dragon, attack over these. They don't really do much, and then I just am stuck with this. If he doesn't actually deal 8,000 damage, which honestly I think he's probably going to be able to do this turn, then I do have an out of something like Brain Control, depending on how much he leaves me with. Luckily, he's below the Brain Control threshold. That's actually pretty good for me now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe he wanted to Reborn first, so that if he drew Brain, he'd have enough life. That's something to discuss. So he says 1 sec. One of the reasons I like this particular deck is that the lines of play that result in wins can sometimes get convoluted while he's banishing the Grepher. That's an interesting one to banish. Maybe he does have Return Set, and he has a clear path. The thing with Grepher is it's the easiest way of getting the darks necessary for Darkarm Dragon, so I'm curious how at this point he's going to actually summon Darkarm Dragon this turn. He could also summon Plasma. I do not currently have an out to Plasma. The outs to Plasma are Crush Card, Torrential Tribute, and Brain Control. I do not have any of those 3, and he's drawn so many cards. It's a pretty good chance that he has Plasma. So he could be looking at this and saying, I'm just going to summon Plasma, and my opponent's not going to have any response, and my opponent's not going to have any outs to it, and he would be correct in those assertions. And with all the allures that he just activated, that could be another way I lose. He could also, by summoning Plasma, just to note, put 1 Dark in there. It's actually kind of interesting. He has a bunch of light monsters, a monster that goes to the banish pile, and Stratos. Wow, that's an interesting discard. I'll also note that D-Draw came from his hand, so that set card is actually not D-Draw. This is either Reborn or a card he drew on that turn. Virtually 0% chance he would actually set Reborn. So it's now becoming more and more likely that this card set here is actually something like Return from the Different Dimension. Or it could be the third D-draw that he drew. But what's important is he activated both D-draws from his hand this turn, which means this one that we potentially identified as a D-draw from that turn where he set with a bunch of dead cards in his hand might not actually be the case. He can very easily put the Plasma back on top of his deck with Valley and then draw two and then draw the Valley, or draw off the Valley into the Plasma. So the fact that Plasma is in the graveyard, it's not the end all be all. Yep, thinking. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in hand. I presume there's a way of beating me from this point. Just as things are currently constituted, he has a crash into the Dark Arm Dragon. That's obviously not great. And then the Giorlando is threatening because I could use its effect next turn. So there are a ton of ways he can break the board currently, but he does need to do that. If he doesn't actually get to the point of OTKing, he has a few things to worry about. All right, now we get to see the Cyber Valley stuff. So he's drawing 2. All right. I mean, he's down to 12 cards, so he probably has what he needs to beat me, but it is interesting to see that he is digging as opposed to putting the Plasma on top. Heavy, yep. That must mean I lose. Okay, it is a return. Yep. Is that 3 darks? 1, 2. He needs 1 more dark. So third Destiny draw with Dasher gets him to 3 darks. The problem is he's going to do that, and then I'm going to be stuck with nothing at all, basically. And he's going to be able to flip all his trap cards like Crush Card Virus and Mind Crush and Trap Dash Shoot. Not that I didn't do that to him on the first turn. But he's going to clear my board, obviously kill the Jinzo in the process, and then he's going to activate all his trap cards and my hand doesn't do anything. Okay. The disc to draw 2. Yep. Really curious what his hand is right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards we do not know. All right, well, 8 cards we do not know. We know 1 is Brain Control. Probably has at least 1 more return because there's 3 in the deck. Probably has, let's see, for monsters he could have obviously quantity of Dark Arm Dragons, right? There's 10 cards in his deck. He has some quantity of Dark Arms. Probably something like some of the big monsters. Jinzo presumably could be in his hand. He could have a Sangan. That's a smaller monster he could easily have. And then some of the good trap cards like Crush Card and Mind Crush. One of the awkward situations for him right now is if he attacks the DMOC into the Giorlando, it banishes it. There was a universe where he wanted to do that and then Monster Born at main phase 2. But obviously he can't do that. I want to say I'm certain he's going to attack the Jinzo, but these are actually equally as threatening. All right, so he's doing this because he has Crush Card Virus. And that's another reason why he didn't draw off of this. So he's going to wipe my board and I'm just going to lose with the Crush Card. So after all of that, I knew there would be a way that I just eventually lose. Because if he sets a monster and doesn't Valley. Okay, so now what he's going to do is he's going to play Return from the Different Dimension. Bring a bunch of stuff back. Oh, no, he's not. So he can do this and draw 2 and then still just return Crush Card me. Yeah, that's what he's doing. That's why he's banishing the DMOC. So now he's going to return all of this good stuff. And he's going to Crush Card me. Yep. And hit me for 5. I Crush Card him for actual factual 0 cards. But I'm going to get hit with a Crush for all of them. It's probably Crush, Mind Crush, maybe Trap Dash Shoot, and at least 1 return. I could draw nothing. I could draw nothing. I don't think there's anything I can draw. Runner, Allura Darknesses. Maybe Destiny draw into Allura, into Reborn, and Defusion. The problem is he probably has Mind Crush too. So even those rather elaborate sequences, yeah, that's going to do it. That was a tough one. Again, like I mentioned in the deck profile, I don't really side deck anything, so I'm just going to keep this the way it is. I know you could side the DD Crows, and maybe I'll side 1 Crow in, search it off Sangan. I just don't think it's very good. I guess it's better than Reaper, because I don't think Reaper is good at all. Yeah, I'll just make 1 side change. That opening Mind Crush card turn 1 was rough, though. It's like the worst case scenario. You Crush Card them for 0, they draw 2 times. He actually drew 4 cards. I attacked 2 Cyber Valleys and he got 2 draw phase, and I hit 0 when there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, There's something like 9 targets. Almost a fourth of the deck are targets. So that was really quite unfortunate. That's okay, though. We'll see how we open up here. All right. So this is going to put me to the test of something that I said in a video the other day, but I think trying to draw into action with Cyber Valley is so important on the first turn. I'm going to do something that probably doesn't look correct based on my hand. Because I could do something really basic, summon Stratos, Destiny Draw it. I mean, that's a super simplistic sequence, but I'm actually going to search for something of Rhoda and allure it. What it is, I still have to think for a second. I could search Grepher to banish it so that it's live with the 3 return from the different dimensions and the defusion. That's one option. I could get Disc Commander. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to get Disc Commander. And then I'm going to Destiny Draw the Disc Commander because I can still allure away anything that I get off the Stratos on the following turn. So again, I do this because I just think not wasting, but using a normal summon. Oh, see, look at that. I told you. That's why you do it like this. But I think using your normal summon on Stratos and then just sort of ending your turn is a little risky. So I have the option here of putting presumably Rhoda on top of my deck, which might be valuable. Banishing the Stratos, trying to draw into return from the different dimension. The question here is, do I just draw 2? Or do I stack on top? I guess I can figure out if I want to stack on top after. No, I banish this, banish Stratos, put the Rhoda on top of my deck, and then I can Rhoda for Grepher and allure away the Grepher. That might be pretty good. That really loads up my banished pile. The other option is to draw 2 and then leave the Valley on the board and summon the Stratos on the following turn, which is actually pretty decent too. But I kind of like the option because then I can just set Torrential and end the turn that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to banish and then banish. I'm going to put the Rhoda on top of my deck. I can actually put the Disc Commander on top of my deck too. Banish 2, Destiny Draw the Disc Commander. Lets me see a pretty decent amount of cards. That way I don't have to Rhoda and allure away the Grepher. Now I kind of like using Allure of Darkness on Grepher, because it really fuels return and defusion. I still think I Rhoda for Grepher because it's the only one left in my deck, right? Yeah, okay. So I have to do the Rhoda first to get it out of my deck before I Destiny Draw this Malicious. So I'll search Grepher. I'm going to still just Destiny Draw the Malicious. It is better than Dasher, so it's the best use of a Destiny Draw. Okay, now I'm going to use Allure, and now the question is I might end up banishing the Dasher. All right, see, the whole point of this deck is to draw into this on the first turn. This is just such a huge card on the first turn. In terms of what I'm going to get rid of, I think I'm going to get rid of the Dasher, because if I draw any Dark, I have Dark Arm live, which is pretty good. I somehow didn't draw into any of the return from the different dimensions, but that's okay. Here, I don't have a banished card. I don't have a defusion or a return from the different dimension. So this is one of those situations where I just tutor out the defusion. And now I'm going to set Dust Shoot and set Torrential, and I will pass. I am going to Dust Shoot right away. I know that last game it seemed like, no, maybe you should have waited for the Rhoda, but I'm a big fan of just doing it. Yeah, so his hand here. So that Monster Reborn can go get my Disc Commander, which is annoying. It was Jinzo, Malicious, Goat, Return. This is the risk of putting Disc in the grave, but I still think it's okay. Jinzo, Malicious, Goat, Return, and Dupe. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the Malicious because I do not want my opponent to draw Destiny Draw off of the Reborn on my Disc Commander. I kind of want my opponent actually to draw the Valley. Funny, at the beginning of this format, they unbanned Monster Reborn thinking that would discourage people from running Disc Commander, and they banned Call of the Haunted. So they kept it at 2 recursion cards, Premature and Reborn, versus Premature and Call. But Disc Commander is still so powerful. If they Reborn it, it is what it is. Allure? Yep, okay, so this is going to get rid of his Jinzo. So I guess I can get rid of the Malicious in this list too, because I put that back in his deck. Oh, he has return 2, I think. Yeah, I think that was the other card I saw. So this will be interesting because now he set up Jinzo Return, which is a pseudo trap stun. Wow, is he going to tribute summon for Jinzo right now? Oh, Gold Sark. Wow. That is really good with what he has. I'm going to be 1 turn too slow again this game, I think. Oh, okay, well, if he's searching Fusion, I think I'm in good shape because I'm going to get my Fusion 1 turn before he does. But he has Goat, Dupe, and Return. But the Jinzo, I guess, is still in his hand. Is he just going to tribute summon for Jinzo? It's not impossible. Okay, so he has Greffer. Oh, okay, so he's going to ditch the Jinzo. Okay, yep. He sends Malicious to the grave. Okay, so he's got Dupe, Goat, Return. Are those his 3 cards? Dupe, Goat, Return. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, no need to Torrential right now. I can summon the Greffer, attack his Disc Commander, and then the Greffer stare at each other, and if he attacks my Greffer, it puts me to 3 darks. So he's going to banish the Malicious. Okay. I am just verifying that I know his hand. Okay, so, okay, that's fine. So he's just going aggressive, which is reasonable. He's going to try and put me below the threshold for Defusion. I could Torrential, but there's really no reason to Torrential. It's not like that puts me to enough darks, so I'm pretty fine with this. I'll just take the 25. On my turn, unless I draw something that changes things, I'm probably just going to summon the Greffer. I might even banish the Malicious to crash the Malicious into his Malicious. Don't want him to draw Crush Card Virus. All right, so that's Goat and Return. Okay. Yep, we'll draw. All right, that was a good draw. I think I'm going to banish the Malicious, summon the Greffer, attack my Disc Commander and his Malicious, and then the 2 Greffers stare at each other. Granted, he can get to 3 darks in that sequence, but I can at least Torrential Tribute. And if he draws darks, it's going to be kind of annoying because he can banish the Jinzo and target anything and then flip Return on the Jinzo. So there is a little bit of fear there. I could banish the Malicious. No, that's actually what I could banish the Malicious. Malicious can attack the Disc Commander. No, and Greffer crash. That doesn't work because I wouldn't have Malicious in the graveyard anymore. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to get to 3 darks. Not a convenient way. I could banish the Malicious, summon the Greffer, and Torrential Tribute. And just clear the board. He has just Duplication in hand. Is there anything he can conceivably draw there? Probably not. Yeah, that might actually be the play. So I'm going to banish my Malicious, Torrential the field. No, I have to summon the Greffer too. I do. I have to do my Greffer, my Greffer, my Disc Commander, my Malicious. That's going to put him to 3 darks, but I'm going to summon Dark Arm Dragon. I'm going to pop the Goats in the Return. And I get my Defusion back next turn, and I'll definitely be able to win, and I'll also have Return set. Okay, that is the play. Can I deal damage at all? No, unfortunately. Actually, I can't. Let me think about this. Am I leaving damage on the board? If I summon Greffer and attack over the Malicious, that goes through automatically, and then main phase 2, I do the Malicious play. I summon the Dark Arm, I target 2 back rows. It doesn't matter how many Scapegoat tokens he has, because I'll figure out a way to win around the Scapegoat tokens. I have Gold Sark in the graveyard, so I can tutor out Zerato. So I do think I summon the Greffer first and attack the Malicious, and then main phase 2, banish the Malicious, flip the Torrential, summon the Dark Arm. Because if I do it the other way, the Dark Arm's just going to run into the Scapegoat. So yeah, I want to do it so that I deal a little bit of damage first. Don't want to leave damage on the board. Banish the Malicious, summon the Malicious, flip the Torrential, send these to the grave. Summon the Dark Arm, banish, target that one. Sweet. We'll banish, target that one. Do I want to kill any of the scapegoats? Probably not. Probably not. Because I can just tutor Giorlando. If I kill this, he can go Cyber Valley Machine Dupe and get a lot of draws. So I want to minimize that. So I actually am going to do it like this. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to leave the Malicious in the graveyard. Let's see what happens. I also have the, if he sets back rows, I can return for the, so he sets a monster. So I don't know what that is. Okay, we should be good now. Start turn, get back defusion. Oh, I even drew Mind Crush for his defusion. Our goal here is to use Dark Lord Giorlando and clear his board. Having both return and 2 defusion activations makes this pretty easy to accomplish. I am going to need to Gold Sark Giorlando at least once. So we're going to start first with defusion and bring back the Valley, the Valley, the Valley, and the Stratos. The Stratos is going to search. I should have 1 left, right? Plasma. Yeah, so that's really important. Having this Plasma is going to be really important because it's going to ensure that I have a Dark Monster for the Gold Sark. I could Dark Arm his face down right now, but there's actually a concern that this is Sanguine and he searches DD Crow. If he were to do that, he could actually Crow the defusion. We know the card in hand is Duplication, so we actually have no fear on that face down, and Giorlando's going to take care of it eventually anyway. Now we're going to banish the Valley and the Mind Crush to put the Gold Sark back on top. We're going to banish the Cyber Valley. And actually, let me think about this for a second. Maybe I don't want to put the Sark on top. Maybe I want to put the defusion on top of my deck. Yeah, I can do it in a later iteration. Yeah, we're going to put the fusion on top. Now we want to draw 2 off of these 2. Bring back the fusion. Perfect. Now I have more flexibility because now I can banish this to put the Sarko on top of my deck. Now I can activate fusion again. Now it's going to bring out the Dasher, the Valley, and the Valley. Now I'm going to... Actually, what I should do is I should bring out the Greffer. That way, if I draw into Giorlando, if Giorlando is the second card down, I can ditch it off the Greffer and then banish it off the Dark Arm. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to banish the Valley and I'm going to banish this Valley to make sure that I draw the Gold Sarcophagus. Oh, that's actually hilarious that I drew it right there. That's actually hilarious. All right, now we're going to use the Greffer effect to ditch the Giorlando to the graveyard. That will send, I guess we can put Dark Magician of Chaos in the graveyard. I don't even need to Gold Sark anymore. That's actually really funny that it happened like that. I guess it doesn't really matter what I do at this point. So I'll banish to draw 2. I don't think there's any reason not to. Yeah, we'll just banish to draw 2. Now we will use Dark Arm. We will banish the Giorlando to pop this token. We'll banish the Dark Magician of Chaos to pop the token. And then we'll flip, return from the different dimension. And we'll bring back Dark Magician of Chaos, Giorlando, Greffer, and Dasher. And then we will use the Zerato effect and send the Plasma to the graveyard. That will clear his board. We know his face down at this point is nothing. So that's the game. So we've actually had 2 games in a row that showed off the power of Gold Sark. As I mentioned, it's basically a tutor for anything that you need when you have the return from the different dimension and defusions. So it can be really exciting there once those start going off. Curious what he's side decking. I mean, I just feel like side decking is... In retrospect, if you put Royal Oppression in your deck, you probably would have won a lot. If you're not going to side deck MST or anything, Royal Oppression is pretty good. So I think that could have been a card that people went back and included. But we were at the point in Yu-Gi-Oh's history where Royal Oppression didn't work the way it does now. Now you can flip Royal Oppression and negate a special summon. Your opponent summons Dad, you flip Royal Oppression. So it basically turns Royal Oppression bare minimum into a 1-for-1. That wasn't the case during this format. Granted, it would change within the next approximate, let's say, 4 months or so from the point of this event, maybe 5 months. It was in the middle of the Gladiator Beast format where that changed, where you could flip Oppression to the special summon of Dark Arm Dragon. But in March of 2008, that was not the case. So you'd have to flip it prematurely. Now, I mean, if you summoned any big monster and then flipped it, you're in pretty good shape. So it's not like it was that bad of an idea. And I think a lot of the older formats could have benefited from having Oppression. Especially if a Heavy Storm is the only main decked out, besides Tribute Summoning for Jinzo, which is somewhat hard to do if you don't have a special summon. Yep. So here's the Disc Commander. Hopefully he doesn't have any of the recursion cards. He did have to Allure Away Darkness, the Malicious, so we can presume he doesn't have Jinzo, Dark Magician of Chaos, any of that stuff. But he does have the Premature. Yep, all good. No crow here. Probably gonna crush card me here on the opening turn. Let's get 7 in hand. That's pretty good. Hopefully I draw a dupe like I did that previous game. I get 3 first draws at it. Hopefully just 1 trap. If he said, yeah, okay. So now it's definitely the case that he's going to have a lot of the combo cards. Okay. I'm going to... If he's not going to flip Crush... There's a universe where I set Defusion, but I'm just not going to do it right now. If he's going to let me Destiny draw this Disc Commander, I'm just going to take it. Sometimes I just set my trap cards, or my spell cards, or my trap cards to play around things. Like, okay. Like, I don't want him to Mind Crush this dupe. So I'm going to set dupe. And then summon. And then set Mind Crush, because there's no matter what I'm going to set at this turn. Okay. Now I will flip it. Sweet. All right. Hopefully it doesn't torrential. That would just be so sad. I'd be left with nothing. Giving him a chance to torrential. All right, is there anything in my graveyard that I want to put on top of my deck? Absolutely not. So we'll banish to draw 2. The reason I'm not setting Defusion is there's just no universe where he's going to blindly Mind Crush the Defusion. Here I'm going to activate the Allure. I could special summon the Grepher, but that's a little bit of an investment. I'd have to pitch the Dark Arm, and I'd rather just banish it and have the Defusion. So we're going to draw 2. I have all of the Dark Arms one would ever need. I don't think any of these cards in my graveyard I want on top of my deck right now. And I kind of like having these cards in my hand. So I'm just going to activate the Defusion. I'm going to continue what I've been doing, though, and set the return. Because I know I'm going to set it this turn no matter what. And this helps reduce the amount of cards that he knows in my hand. If he were to flip... At this point, I really doubt he's going to crush card me. He could still crush card me, but it's becoming less and less likely. And now I'm going to activate the Defusion. And I'll get back the Double Valley. And I'll put the Grepher in attack mode. And let's see what he chooses to do here. I am going to probably use the Grepher with my priority. Prio on Grepher. That way I get the 3 darks, and I'm going to put Malicious in the graveyard, although it's not the best one to bring back. off of the fusion. I just think it's the safest one because if he does kill the Grepher with... I honestly don't think he has Torrential anymore. Okay, so he might Torrential here. I think, honestly, he would have Torrentialed there if he had it. So maybe he has Mind Crush. I think that's probably the card that's the most likely card in his hand right now. If he Mind Crushes double Dark Arm, that would be really disheartening. If he were to do that, what could I send? Probably the Dark Magician of Chaos would actually still allow me to find a way to win. This is an interesting one. I'm at 6,000, so I still have a few iterations of... I'm actually going to put the Malicious in the grave. The reason I'm going to put the Malicious in the grave is like threefold right now. It allows me to draw 2 here off of these 2, and then what that would then allow me to do is use the Valley with a card in my hand to put the Defusion on top of my deck, and then banish the Malicious, and then use that with the remaining Valley to draw the Defusion, and then I'd be able to do another iteration of Defusion. So I'm in pretty decent shape right now. He might flip the Mind Crush, the blind Mind Crush. He's probably thinking to himself, though, well, he didn't use it on... He used the Dark Arm Dragon off the Grepher. Does he really have another one? In which case, the answer is yes. Here, I'm going to banish the Valley and the Grepher that already used its effect to draw 2 cards. I'm leaving the Malicious in the graveyard. I know there's a risk of drawing it, but I think I need to maximize my avenues of remaining at 3 darks. If I banished it, there's a difficulty in actually getting back to 3 darks. Now the question is, do I summon Dark Arm Dragon? I have the maximum amount of knowledge that I can have before the question of do I want to stay at the quantity of darks that I have. You can technically Valley darks out of your graveyard, so I think the play might be to banish this Malicious and summon the Malicious, and then put the Valley and the Sangan banished to put the Defusion on top, and then banish the Valley and the Sangan on the board. So I think that's what I'm going to do. There's a possibility, though, that he flips Mind Crush on the Defusion. And then if he were to do that, I would be stymied a bit. So the question here is, do I believe that he has Torrential? I feel like he would have used Torrential at numerous points in this. Like, there's no reason in allowing me to draw this much. The card that makes the most sense based on the way he's been pausing and thinking is him having the single Mind Crush. He would have Crush carded me, I feel like, a long time ago. So the debate that I'm currently having is, if I banish this Malicious and summon the Malicious here in defense mode, you do that first because if you Cyber Valor something on top, Malicious shuffles it. That would be a good thing back in like Plague Spreader, triple Malicious days, but here I actually want the Fusion on top of my deck. So if I banish the Malicious and put the Fusion on top of my deck, the risk at that point is I draw 2 and I draw the Fusion plus a card I don't know, and he uses Mind Crush and he gets rid of the Defusion out of my hand, and then the Malicious that's currently representing my 3rd dark is no longer in the graveyard. So I don't have 3 darks. I have 2 dead Dark Arms, a Scapegoat. I have a Mind Crush which can protect me, but I'm actually not in that great a position. I really don't think he has Torrential. I think he would have used it at numerous other points. So I'm going to assume that he does not have Torrential Tribute, and I am going to, in fact, summon this. He's asking about priority. I will say yes, and I will banish the... I do need to use priority so I can summon my other Dark Arm if I need to. And I'm going to target this back row. If he's been able to sit here and allow me to Valley a bunch of times without using Torrential, that is some next level play. But based on the way he paused, based on that, I think it's presumably the case that he has this Mind Crush. Yep, perfect. What you gonna call? Does that mean he's not using it? Okay. Banish to target that one. Wing Blast. Whoa. Okay. That's interesting. So he should target... Okay, he's going to put this on top of my deck. All right. Yep. Oh, oops. Yeah, that was a mistake. I obviously keep the Malicious in the graveyard. I don't know why I clicked the Dark Arm Dragon. In the grand scheme of things, Bright doesn't change a whole lot, but if I were to do it the other way, I could still probably win this turn, but I just want to make sure. So I'm asking him, does that change your target at all? I'm presuming it doesn't. Okay, because even with the 3 monsters like this, I can put the Defusion back on top of my deck, which is what I want. So I'm going to put this here. We're going to banish the in-hand to put the Defusion on top of deck. Banish to draw 2. All right, now we're going to fusion again. Get Valley. We're going to get Valley and Greffer. I don't know if I need to use the Greffer, but we're going to get it. We're going to go banish and banish to put fusion on top of my deck. We're going to go banish and banish. All right, I just got 3 out. What did I just do? I had... Okay, yeah, now I'm using the second Valley effect. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to banish that. And I'm going to banish the Cyber Valley. The reason I think I'm going to banish the Cyber Valley is if I draw a Dark Monster, I can use this Greffer. No, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way, because I can just Defusion it back anyway. So now I'll draw 2, Defusion, and Reborn is the new card. Okay, Reborn is the new card. I don't think I need this Dark-Armed Dragon anymore because I drew that Reborn, so I am going to banish it to draw 2. Okay, so I still have Stratos in my deck? Yeah, so we'll just go get the Stratos. That's obviously very good. Now we're going to Defusion again. I think I've actually used Defusion now. Yeah, I keep not taking the life points, but... So we're going to get this, get the Greffer, and presumably the Sangan. Because now I've amassed Crush Card, Trap, Dushoot, which hopefully can help against what he currently has. And I have the return anyway to bring back the Sangan, so we're going to go... This might not be a turn where I win, but we'll see what happens. Banish 2 Valleys. That might actually be the play. Banish 2 Valleys. None of these cards in the graveyard I want to put on top of my deck. I can use Greffer to ditch the Dark-Armed Dragon to put Dark Magician of Chaos in the graveyard too. That is a possible sequence. But the question is, I need access to Zerato and Dark Magician of Chaos, and I don't think that's going to happen. I already used my normal summon on a Valley earlier. All right, we're going to banish these 2. The reason I'm banishing the Sangan is I can return the Sangan and Crush Card it there. Okay, Gold Sark with the return. That's pretty good. Now I can just tutor out the Dark Magician of Chaos. So we're in decent shape. Now I can attack over the Disc Commander and Reborn it if I absolutely want to. I could also ditch the Dark-Armed Dragon with the Greffer to put Dark Magician of Chaos in my graveyard. And then the Dark Magician of Chaos would hit the board. And I'd bring back the Reborn. Kind of want to draw Mind Crush. Mind Crush is one of the better cards right now. I don't have to worry about the Stratos because the Crush card can deal with it. So presumably I want to kill these 2 monsters. So let's see here. I mean, I should have game, but I don't think I'm actually going to be able to game here. The Valley can put... Let's see. Banish these 2, draw 2. Now we're going to banish the Valley and the Stratos. And put Allure on top of my deck. I can also discard Dark-Armed Dragon off Greffer and put whatever it is that I send to the graveyard on top of my deck. But I don't think that actually accomplishes anything here, but there's sometimes that sequence of plays. So now the question is, do I care about him having a bunch of monsters on the board? I don't think I really care. Do I want to allure away the darkness, the Dark-Armed Dragon? That's another possibility. What are the odds that I get to 3 darks or Dark-Armed Dragon? getting a little bit lower as the turns progress. Let's say I were to do that. The things that I could draw into are more dark monsters. I could also presumably draw into Dark Magician of Chaos or Zerato, make it so that my pitch here off the Grepher is really good. That might actually be fine. I still have one more Dark Arm in my deck. Oh, nope, never mind. I've used them all. Oh yeah, I had 3 Dark Arms at one point. All right. We're going to banish this, and we're going to banish this to put Allure of Darkness on top of my deck. Then we're going to banish this, and we're going to banish this. Draw the Allure, and this. Okay. Now we're going to Gold Sark for Dark Magician of Chaos. Now we're going to send this to the grave. We have Return Set. Dust Shoot that. I can always Reborn his Reaper too. That was another way of getting to Crush card. So we'll set this. Set this. Yeah, we're going to Reborn his Reaper. I can use the Reaper to attack the Disc Commander, but I don't think that's actually a good idea. All right, so we're going to end the turn, and then we're going to flip the Dust Shoot and get a sense of what his hand is, and then try and figure out how we want to sequence it here. Okay, so we'll get rid of the Valley. Feels over. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty bad for him. If he sets the return, I can flip return on mine and kill it with Stratos. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, I could have flipped the Crush card, but I don't necessarily know if I have to flip the Crush card at any point. I mean, I guess I'm going to do this in case he draws Jinzo. If he draws Jinzo, I might actually lose, so I'm just going to do it now. Let's see what he's got. This also tells me if he drew Heavy Storm. Okay. Yeah, now it's probably game. That would have told me if he drew Heavy Storm. If he drew Heavy, I was just going to flip the return. That way I get the Stratos and the Dark Magician of Chaos effect. If you don't do it like that, then you miss timing. And he already used his normal summon there in the Valley, so it's going to be hard for him to deal damage like that. He could draw Reborn, and then I could use my thing defensively. Yeah, now it's definitely over. Now it's Dust Tornado, Dupe, and Return. So I might have been able to win that previous turn, but again, he had 2 back rows, so I couldn't just go summon all my Dark Arm Dragons into the back rows. And I think playing around that Mind Crush ended up working out, because if I put the Fusion on top of the deck, he would have just Mind Crushed it. I don't know if there was actually a path to winning that previous turn, but obviously things ended up working out. So he's going to just set everything. What's interesting here is I'm going to use priority in draw phase, because if he flips the Dust Tornado and I chain return, I'm going to miss the timing. I felt like didn't I Gold Sark that? No, okay, I guess I didn't. So in draw phase, I'm going to activate this so that it's Chainlink 1. If I allow him to Dust Tornado and he chains it on return, then as Chainlink 2, I would not actually get any of these effects off. So this is the only way that I can guarantee that what I need to have happen happens. So let's see, I just need enough damage to win, right? This is going to be enough. That'll pop 2 back rows. I attribute these for Zerato. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to pop these 2 back rows with Stratos, and then Dark Magician of Chaos is going to add Monster Born to my hand. If I allowed myself to get the standby phase or anything, again, he flips the Dust Tornado, and I chain the return, and I don't get these 2 effects. And I mean, I probably win the game anyway, but this way it just guarantees that I win the game. The Stratos is popping 2 back rows. And then I'm going to double tribute these for Zerato, and that's going to be the game. Oh yeah, I dropped 2,000 life points, but again, that doesn't matter. I mean, I'm just going to show him I'm going to have the Zerato here. All right, anyway, that was an intense match. Those are some really crazy, crazy games. It really showed you the power of Defusion. We both drew it a ton. We both drew Gold Sark a ton, showed you the power of Crush Card Virus. Again, this is not everybody's cup of tea, but I really do enjoy this format. I think it's pretty fun to play. A lot of the games are kind of convoluted. I think there were some interesting decision points. I don't know if I played this game perfectly, certainly. I think playing around the Mind Crush obviously ended up working out. If I just continued on that Defusion line of path, I think I would have actually lost the match. So I'm glad that I made that decision. It might have looked weird with a bunch of Dark Arms not to just put them all on the board, particularly after it was pretty clear he didn't have Torrential Tribute. But that ended up working out. It's been Joe Giorlando for Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Thank you for watching. Check back soon for more content and a variety of new deck profiles and matches.